What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction. Back with some more Alison Moyet, and we're going back to the bonus material following the completion of the 1987 album Raindancing, which is to say, presumably B-sides and other non-album tunes from the Raindancing era, and indeed, the tracks that Seb shares always have metadata. So we're going to listen to Take My Imagination to Bed, a phrase which made me think two very different ideas regarding the title, though obviously neither of them may be relevant, but let's see. So the metadata here says this is, so the Raindancing B-side, the B-side of the title track. So yeah, ultimately just making sure that I didn't already react to this, because for some reason I remember saying that phrase before. No, the last one was To Work on You. Okay, so maybe I'm just, my brain is imagining things at this point, but either way, this is apparently the Raindancing B-side. It's from 1987 by Alison Moyet, and it is called Take My Imagination to Bed. And as I said, the first thought I had when I saw that is that perhaps someone is hoping to achieve some measure of physical intimacy with someone, and so they're saying, take my imagination to bed, at least let me connect in the realm of my imagination. But then I thought of a very different interpretation, the idea of, disillusion me, take my imagination, take any fanciful notions I have which have little probability of success, and take them out behind the shed and put them down, because I don't want to have this disconnect between what I think might happen and reality anymore. I feel like that interpretation is far less likely, and again, neither of them may have any relevance, but again, when I sat and looked at the title for a second longer, it was like, or it could be about, you want your imagination to be expired, taken away, put to bed, in that sense. So let's see if either interpretation has anything to do with the actual lyrics. This is Alison Moyet. The tune is Take My Imagination to Bed, and it's the B-side of the title track Raindancing from her 1987 album of the same name. Has a bit of that classic 80s feel.
I could never run to.
Mark?
I could never run. Soak myself in romance for an evening. I sit in the shop on an empty look for a handful of signs that pull up at somebody's door.
Avalanche of vocals. I like how in the chorus she does the backing vocals. imagine performing this live and she's just like Alison, you gotta breathe. It's funny though, it makes me laugh because I reacted to a trance track by an artist named DJ Tomcraft. It's called Mind. It's, you know, a classic tune from my early raving days. And, you know, it repeats the word mind a lot. And a couple people commented that, you know, I like some of the sonics. It feels like the word mind is too repetitive. And I feel like this track beats the number of time, like, repeating a phrase compared to a lot of techno tracks by far. Like, we hear that main phrase repeated by Alison so many times, which isn't really a criticism, but it's funny how, like, in a different genre, a repetition maybe doesn't come, like, it doesn't come across in that same, like, oh, it's, you know, it's just that same thing, like, every bar, every measure, because it's, you know, there's, like, a more soulful and, like, not, like, it feels less mechanical, I guess, but either way, it did amuse me, because it sounded like she's saying mind, and then it's like, yeah, essentially it's the same word. Whatever. The point is, I enjoyed the way she essentially played the backing vocals in the chorus, and then in the verses, it's interesting. It's again where, like, the vocals sounded slightly shift, like they were slightly outside the pocket, but it was more like they had their own cascading downward motion, so they weren't just, you know, perfectly affixed to, like, each bar. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but when my brain thinks about music, it's, like, often very spatial, and it felt like the vocals were, you know, they were in time, but they were sort of doing their own thing, like, independent from the sonics, even if it was, you know, like, it fit in, like, perfectly. So I enjoyed the way the vocals were, in some sense, like, non-standard, or like they didn't come across as like just a simple, you know, line by line, like perfectly in rhythm with the bars. There were also yeah, some sonic flourishes. I did enjoy the overall 80s feel. As I said, it kind of had this like vintage 80s feel, certainly at the start, and yeah, ultimately it's a tune where I wonder, like, if I had heard this back in the day, if it would now be like, oh man, you know, that, you know, it's so nostalgic and so on. Because there are other tunes where, you know, I know them, or the artist in question, to a, you know, small degree. Some of them I'm now exploring through my channel, but it's like, oh, I remember that one tune, it's like really nostalgic, but it's like, there's a capriciousness or like an arbitrary nature to it. It's like, you know, you heard this song on the radio, you walked away, and this other tune, which has, you know, a really good 80s sound and would have caught your brain had you still been there, well, then that played, but you weren't there anymore. So fast forward 30 years, it's not a tune that you have any connection to, even though, again, I'm enjoying going through artists, you know, completely anew, or in some cases, with only a little bit of knowledge. And it's like, oh wow, they did all these other things, and I never heard them. So again, it's interesting to me the way this, you know, the sliding doors of history, where it's, you know, you hear something, you don't hear something else, and then for you, like, that's your nostalgic music, you know, roadmap or like legend. So in any case, a cool tune, and I, you know, there's never a tune where I don't enjoy Alison's vocals. A couple moments where she kind of got deep, and, you know, that like deep husky sort of delivery, which I always enjoy. So yeah, a cool tune. And one that, like I said, you know, I feel like could fit onto like a, oh, you know, 80s like classics compilation, even though, you know, I'm not aware that it was a hit in any way. So, which is interesting, because again, you like a B-side, I imagine there's a less expectation that it's a track that's gonna like burn up the charts, but like the release itself, you know, with the A-side tune will be counted in terms of like, you know, sales for a given, you know, 10 or 12 inch or whatever. So yeah, it's always interesting to me as we go through and I hear like, oh, this one was a big hit, or this one wasn't a big hit, and like those two tracks don't seem like there's a lot of like quality distance between them. So it's like, you know, again, it feels somewhat arbitrary, like what hits and what doesn't. Either way, I'll stop musing about music matters far beyond my scope of comprehension, and do let me know what you think of Alison's track. I will see you next time. Peace.